G'day YouTube! So I'm here today on a wet, rainy day doing some electrical stuff in the van, just tidying up a few loose ends. Before we get started, I should point out my van is running a 24 volt battery, and that means I can plug these Philips Hue light strips directly into the power system. If you're running a 12 volt system, don't despair, because all you need is a 12 to 24 volt converter, such as one of the Victron DC converters, and that will let you power all the light strips natively without any dramas. So here's one of the main reasons I like the Philips Hue system. We've got these really good remote controls that you can be programmed to do whatever you want. So you can turn the lights on, off, and switch through between the different types of white, for example, or you can program the buttons to do whatever you want. Hey Siri, set the lights to fluorescent pink.
Fluorescent pink coming.
You know, I've really struggled to find connectors. I'll show you what I've got. All my Philips Hue lights have got these DC plugs. So these DC plugs are not the best in a camper van. Now one option would be to cut this cable. What I've did buy initially is these little connectors, and they have screw terminals on the end. If you just wiggle this back and forwards, the cable actually starts sliding out. So that is really unsuitable for use in a vehicle. If a tiny bit of cable comes out here and touches the other side, it's going to short it and potentially cause a fire. So here's my solution. I bought a pack of pre-finished, pre-wired plugs. So these things have got the cable coming out the back, which I can simply solder onto my existing cables. These are about $5 from China. The only problem with ordering things like this from China is they take 2 weeks to arrive at least. So here's my new connector, and you can see the cable has been soldered on here. So I heat shrinked each individual cable, and then I got some heat shrink over the top of both of them to just hold it all. There's actually two models, and they've just brought out a new model which is wired differently. This is the older one, and you can see the controller here has got this flexible cable coming out of it, and you can just pull that out. It's removable, and that goes, it's a short little cable and plugs into the light strip itself. The controller has a cord coming out of it, and that's permanently installed, and then at the end of the controller is a standard DC plug, and that plugs into your power supply in the wall. Let's have a look at the new model. So here's the new model, and instead of having a removable cable out of the controller, it's now got a permanent cable, and it's permanently connected to the light strip. You used to be able to buy extension cables to extend this. Now your controller has to be right next to your light strip, so just keep that in mind depending on your installation. It comes with this thinner cable with two DC plugs, and one of them is bigger at the end than the other. The power supplies are slightly different, so you can see the newer one has a bigger piece, the older one has a smaller piece. So just keep that in mind if you're installing these things. Don't forget, I'm a complete amateur when it comes to electrical engineering, so best to watch someone who knows what they're doing if you want to actually learn how to solder properly. So here's my soldering station, and I'll show you what I'm using here. I've just got an old chopping board. I bought this really cheap little kit here just to help hold things in position. So this is really handy if you've got a cable hanging down. You normally don't have enough hands. We've got some electrical solder here, and this is rosin core. Make sure you don't get the plumbing stuff. We've got a whole bunch of heat shrink, so you can see I use this red and black heat shrink to do each individual cable, and then I've got some bigger heat shrink here, and that comes out of this kit I bought of just random assortment of heat shrinks. I've got a knife which I've been using to just slice apart the cables, and we've got a heat gun, and what's nice, it's all running off my inverter. So this heat gun is 1500 watts. Oh, and finally we've got our soldering iron. This is quite nice in that it's got a temperature control, but otherwise it's quite a cheap model. But it seems to do the job. best soldering in the world, but hey, there it goes. Hey Siri, turn off the lights.